The Eternity Processing Center, IPC, number 734, was established on a dull moon at the edge of human-controlled space. The absurd normalcy of the facility was almost comical. A flickering neon sign that read, IPC, serving all existences since 2742, vending machines dispensing bizarre matter states alongside standard beverages, and long rows of beige plastic chairs stretching across the waiting area. The overall aesthetic was reminiscent of a government office from centuries past, deliberately designed to instill a sense of bureaucratic resignation in all who entered. Albert Peabody was the epitome of bureaucratic calmness. A mid-level desk worker with unassuming features, he spent his days collating forms and sipping lukewarm coffee. Albert's demeanor never changed, whether processing applications from microscopic quantum civilizations or reviewing reality restructuring permits from entities older than time itself. To him, it was all just paperwork. This particular cycle had been unremarkable. Albert had processed 17 standard applications, rejected 3 for improper formatting, and was now cross-referencing a particularly complex form from a crystalline hive mind seeking permission to split into 2 distinct consciousness clusters. Then it happened. A violent purple flash lit up the waiting area, accompanied by a thunderclap that shook the ceiling tiles. Standing before the reception desk was Zgordax, the Soul Render, an ancient deity from the 9th dimensional plane. Zgordax was an impressive sight, a shifting mass of darkness and light, with multiple appendages that appeared and disappeared at random intervals, and eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Cosmic power radiated from the deity in palpable waves. I am Zgordax, the Soul Render, conqueror of 1,000 realities, devourer of stars, keeper of the eternal void. The deity's voice echoed across dimensions, causing small ripples in the fabric of local reality. I demand an immediate audience with your highest authority to declare my sovereignty over the nearby solar system. Albert didn't look up from his screen. Without missing a keystroke, he gestured vaguely toward a small dispenser on the wall. Please take a number and wait your turn. The words hung in the air, simple yet profound. Zgordax froze, multiple mouths agape. In thousands of years of existence, of being worshipped, sacrificed to, and feared, the deity had never encountered such dismissal. It was incomprehensible. Perhaps you do not understand who addresses you, mortal. I am. I heard you the first time, sir, Albert interrupted, still not looking up. Policy requires all entities, regardless of power level or dimensional origin, to follow proper queuing protocol. Zgordax's form darkened, and the floor trembled slightly. The fluorescent lights flickered, and a nearby potted plant wilted instantly. Albert sighed and tapped a laminated sign on his desk. No unauthorized power manifestations in waiting area. Regulation 7C. But if you continue, I'll have to file an unauthorized dimensional disturbance report, which would further delay your processing, Albert said, finally looking up with the practiced patience of someone explaining a simple concept to a particularly difficult client. The form in question will be 96Q, requiring signatures from at least 3 Class E witnesses and a notarized statement from an authorized metaphysical insurance adjuster. Zgordax's aura of menace subsided slightly, replaced by confusion. The deity looked around the waiting area for the first time. The room contained an assortment of beings that defied conventional description. In one corner, a sentient nebula patiently flipped through a magazine titled Cosmic Housekeeping, occasionally emitting small puffs of stardust when turning a page. Nearby, a group of silicon-based entities were engaged in heated debate about how to complete Form 88F, application for fundamental physical structure alteration. A shimmering cloud of pure mathematical equations floated near the ceiling, seemingly asleep or in deep calculation. None of them paid any attention to Zgordax's dramatic entrance. In fact, several had plugged various sensory appendages with what appeared to be cosmic earplugs, suggesting this type of scene was common enough to be an annoyance. This is preposterous, Zgordax boomed, though with noticeably less dimensional reverberation. Do you know how many civilizations have fallen before me? How many souls I have harvested in my eternal conquest? Albert reached for a clipboard. Do you have your verified entity history certificate with you? That will be Form 1138G. If not, we'll need to schedule a separate appointment with our historical verification department. Zgordak says, Form rippled with indignation. I could destroy this moon and your insignificant processing center with a mere thought. Any damage to Federation property would be directly billed to the violating entity's cosmic energy account, per the Interentity Facility Preservation Act. Albert replied without missing a beat. Premeditated destructive actions would also require the completion of Form 21J, Anticipated Damage Report and Compensation Plan, prior to the event. Would you like me to prepare this paperwork for you? Zgordax fell silent, cosmic indignation momentarily stunned by bureaucratic precision. Seeing an opening, Albert returned to his previous task, calling forward a pure energy being that had been waiting quietly. Entity 4721 Epsilon. I'll process your application for simultaneous multi-location existence now. The energy being, a shimmering vertical line of blue-white light, approached the desk with a respectful hum. Albert efficiently began processing its application, which required Form 45Q and an appendix on causal paradox mitigation. The entire interaction was remarkably smooth and efficient, with the energy being clearly understanding exactly which forms were needed and in what order they should be presented. Zgordax, still hovering near the desk, attempted a different approach, directing a subtle tendril of mind-altering power toward Albert's consciousness. Albert blinked once, then reached for another laminated card on his desk. He held it up for Zgordax to read. All IPC staff have completed standard Level 3B spiritual resistance training. Mental manipulation attempts will result in an automatic 30-day processing delay. Frustrated beyond measure, Zgordax drifted away from the desk, still unsure how to proceed in this baffling situation. The deity noticed that the other entities in the waiting room were either ignoring its presence or regarding it with tired sympathy. A green, gelatinous entity with multiple eye stalks oozed closer to Zgordax. First time, it bubbled quietly. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. Make sure you fill out all the appendices properly. That's where they get you. I do not use TO things, Zgordax replied, though with considerably less volume. Realities get used to me. The gelatinous entity made a sound that might have been a chuckle. That's what the quantum overfiend from Sector 7 said last week. He's still filling out alternative existence justification forms in Room C. Zgordax says cosmic certainty was beginning to waver. The deity had encountered resistance before, heroic last stands, rival deities, even the occasional reality warping paradox, but never anything quite like this. Albert's systematic indifference and the other entity's acceptance were starting to shake the deity's confidence in ways that cosmic battles never had. For the next several hours, or what passed for hours in this transdimensional waiting area, Zgordax observed the proceedings with a mixture of disgust and unwilling fascination. The deity watched as Albert efficiently processed a variety of entities, a swarm of microscopic intelligences seeking collective consciousness status, a four-dimensional being applying for a permit to cast partial shadows in three-dimensional spaces, and a highly polite black hole requesting registration for its newly formed event horizon. Each interaction followed a pattern of immaculate bureaucratic precision. Those who had their paperwork in order moved through the system with surprising efficiency. Those who didn't were redirected to appropriate departments, given additional forms, or scheduled for future appointments. While waiting for the system to process a particularly complex request involving the registration of a pet black hole, Albert had a rare moment of idleness. He noticed Zgordax, still hovering nearby, radiating an aura of cosmic frustration. "Look," Albert said in his monotone voice, "I understand this can be overwhelming for first-time visitors. The IPC exists for a reason." He gestured to a faded poster on the wall, depicting what appeared to be a cosmic explosion. After the random reality restructuring disaster of 2688 and the seventh multiversal divine domain overlap incident, standardized procedures became necessary. Before the IPC, we had chaos, deities claiming overlapping territories, paradox wars decimating entire civilizations, amateur reality manipulators causing dimensional rifts. Albert tapped his keyboard, bringing up a database. Did you know that before regulation, we had an average of 3.7 apocalypses per standard calendar week? Now we're down to one every 2.4 years, and those are scheduled with proper evacuation procedures. Zgordax, despite itself, found this statistic oddly compelling. Just then, a group of robotic monks from a logic-based dimension approached the desk. Each was perfectly identical, with metallic robes and serene digital displays for faces. Their leader, distinguishable only by a small insignia, stepped forward and presented a data crystal. Greetings, Administrative Entity Albert. We wish to submit our application for a galaxy-scale synchronized meditation permit. Albert inserted the crystal into his terminal. Let's see. Pre-completed Form 82T with all required appendices. Reality Impact Assessment. Consciousness Overflow Containment Plan. Projected Harmony Metrics. Albert's eyebrows rose slightly. The closest thing to excitement his face had shown all day. Everything is in the approved digital format and properly filed. Exemplary paperwork. He processed their request in less than 5 standard minutes, even offering a rare compliment. If only all entities were as well prepared as you. The robotic monks bowed in perfect unison and departed, their permission granted. Zgordax watched this exchange with a mixture of horror and unwilling interest. The deity began to perceive a strange order in this bureaucratic chaos, a system that, while maddeningly inefficient on the surface, somehow managed to process the infinite complexities of multidimensional coexistence. Is there perhaps a shortcut? Zgordax asked, voice now modulated to a more conversational volume. A priority process for entities of cosmic importance? Albert looked up. There is the Priority Divine Partner Program, but registration requires completion of the Priority Certification Application Package, 728 pages, requiring signatures notarized by an authorized Omega-level administrative entity. He paused. The next available notary appointment is in approximately 17 cycles of your home dimension's central star. 17 cycles? That's nearly 1,000 of your Earth years. Albert shrugged. Cosmic bureaucracy moves at its own pace. As Zgordax observed more interactions, the deity began to notice patterns and loopholes in the system. Certain phrasings seemed to expedite processing. Specific form combinations appeared to bypass secondary reviews. The system, for all its rigid structure, contained flexibilities that the practiced could navigate with relative ease. Finally, after witnessing multiple examples of bureaucratic efficiency and realizing the futility of resistance, Zgordax drifted to the number dispenser and pulled a small paper ticket. Q9, 372, 814, 55B. The deity descended to a beige plastic chair, which creaked under the weight of its cosmic presence. Zgordax felt its power diminishing in this environment, not through any external force, but through the sheer weight of procedural normalcy. The conversations around the waiting room became suddenly interesting. They've increased the filing fees for non-paradoxical miracle intervention permits again, complained one of 2 light-based entities, its glow pulsing with indignation. That's the 3rd increase in a single galactic rotation. Tell me about it, replied its companion. I had to manifest 17 additional light years of myself just to generate enough energy to pay the processing fee. Nearby, a collective intelligence, appearing as thousands of tiny metallic spheres arranged in a rough humanoid shape, was discussing how to optimize their filing of Form 303, registration of new group consciousness, to avoid cross-dimensional auditing. The trick, one cluster of spheres explained to another, is to register each consciousness strand separately under subsection 42 alpha, then file for collective recognition under the Emergent Intelligence Clause. Saved us 3 eternities of paperwork last time. In another corner, an ancient entity resembling a cloud of cosmic dust was offering advice to Zgordak's neighbor, a nervous-looking demigod with only 3 eyes and a modest aura of power. For divine boundary dispute resolution processes, always request arbitrator class 7 or higher. The lower-level ones don't understand the complexities of overlapping worship domains. Zgordax, despite cosmic nature, found itself listening intently to these conversations. The deity even overheard a useful tip about structuring small-scale reality recreation requests to minimize necessary paperwork, a technique it had never considered in thousands of years of existence. Time passed strangely in the waiting room. It might have been hours, days, or relative millennia, depending on one's frame of reference. Zgordax actually began to feel something uncommon for a cosmic deity: boredom. The deity absent-mindedly flipped through a magazine titled Dimensional Decorating Today, finding itself oddly interested in an article about optimizing pocket universe aesthetics for sustainable worship. Eventually, after what felt like several small eternities, a display board flickered, and Q 9 372 814 55B counter 3 appeared on the screen. Zgordax felt an unexpected surge of excitement. The deity approached Albert's counter with considerably less fanfare than its initial entrance. No light show, no thunderclap, just the soft hum of cosmic energy contained within a more appropriate volume. "How may I help you?" Albert asked, as if this were their first interaction. Zgordax, now much less bombastic, explained the original request about claiming dominion over the nearby solar system. Albert nodded, his fingers already typing. That would require the Regional Dominion Application Package, which includes an environmental impact assessment, potential conflict analysis with existing entities, and a mortal population management plan. The basic filing fee is equivalent to the energy output of a medium-sized star over approximately 7,000 years. Seeing Zgordax's multiple eyes widen, Albert continued, "For first-time applicants, I would recommend starting smaller. Perhaps establishing a minor cult on an uninhabited planet in the region." Zgordax considered this. "That might be acceptable as a beginning." "Much simpler," Albert nodded. "You'll just need Form 12H, Application for Establishment of Small-Scale Worship Organization, and Form 66P, Declaration of Non-Interference with Native Development. Do you have any existing worshippers to declare?" "Not in this dimension," Zgordax admitted. "That actually simplifies things. New entity establishment is covered under Section 4. Albert pulled several forms from a drawer and placed them on the counter. "You'll need to complete all fields in Cosmic Standard ink." Zgordax stared at the forms, bewildered by fields requesting information like preferred sacrifice types, check all that apply, and estimated miracle frequency per standard cycle. Seeing the deity's confusion, Albert offered rare assistance. For dimensional origination code, entities from the 9th dimension should use prefix 9xe followed by your personal manifestation frequency. Over the next hour, with Albert's reluctant guidance explaining some of the more obscure bureaucratic terminology, Zgordax completed the forms, using ink made from dark matter as required. The deity found the process strangely satisfying, bringing order to the chaos of cosmic ambition. Finally, with a decisive motion, Albert stamped approved on the forms and handed Zgordax a copy along with a thin pamphlet titled "Welcome to Harmonized Administrative Space. Your Rights and Responsibilities. Your permission to establish a minor cult is granted for a probationary period of 50 standard years," Albert explained. "You'll receive quarterly evaluation forms, which must be submitted promptly. Any unauthorized expansion beyond your designated worship zone will result in immediate review and possible revocation of privileges." Zgordax held the approved paperwork, feeling an unexpected sense of legitimacy. "And after the probationary period, you can apply for expanded influence using Form 23D. Assuming no violations and proper filing of all required documentation, approval rates for level advancement are approximately 87.3%. Zgordax nodded, already thinking about how to structure worship protocols for maximum efficiency within the approved parameters. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Albert asked. No, I believe that covers everything, Zgordax replied, then added, almost as an afterthought, thank you for your assistance. Albert nodded and turned his attention to his screen. Next number, please. Zgordax departed not with an explosion, but quietly through the automatic doors, feeling confused, but also experiencing a strange sense of order. The deity clutched the approved paperwork and informational pamphlet, already mentally drafting a worship structure that would comply with all regulations while maximizing potential for future expansion. Outside the IPC, the universe continued to operate, but perhaps now with a little more order, carefully documented in the filing system of IPC number 734. As for Albert, he straightened his paperwork and prepared for the next entity. Just another day at the Interinity Processing Center, where even gods had to get in line. The story of Zgordax's encounter with bureaucracy spread through cosmic circles, becoming something of a cautionary tale among deities and supernatural beings. Some said that Zgordax went on to establish a remarkably efficient cult with impeccable documentation and the highest compliance rating in the sector. Others claimed that the experience so transformed the once fearsome deity that Zgordax eventually applied for and received a position within the IPC itself, specializing in divine entity transition services. What is known for certain is that visits to IPC number 734 from newly manifested cosmic entities decreased by approximately 27%, and those who did arrive came with their paperwork prepared in advance. In the grand scheme of the universe, this small improvement in administrative efficiency might seem insignificant, but in the eyes of Albert Peabody, it was nothing short of miraculous. For in the eternal battle between chaos and order, sometimes the mightiest weapon is not a thunderbolt or divine wrath, but a properly completed form, submitted in triplicate, with all the correct appendices attached.